Welcome, everyone. My name is Greg Burke. I have the honor and privilege of interviewing Mr. Wesley Rhodes, the Vice President of Research and Development and Technology Transformation at Kroger. Wesley, welcome to CDO Magazine.
Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for being with us today. This is going to be a lot of fun. Kroger is one of the highlights of how to positively react in this time of the pandemic. And we have some questions. Wes, I'm going to fire them right at you. Here we go.
All right.
First off, big change with COVID, and there's a huge transition in the customer shopping experience. And the question I have for you and the wider Kroger team is, all of a sudden, overnight, something changes. How does data and technology come into play with analyzing how these strategic changes goes to better your customer experience?
Well, data is everything, of course. You know, it is all the senses that you have if you're talking about the electronic channels, right? It is your taste, your smell, your touch. It's everything. So the way you separate all those senses out is through the analytics. So how does it come into play? Well, what's our goal? Our goal is to figure out, what is the customer trying to tell me? What is the customer doing online? I'm trying to anticipate, how do I help them? How do I make the shopping experience better, easier? Is there something there that I can do to unlock frustration? So all these are the things that I'm trying to figure out. So what do? We bounce a lot of math, a whole lot of math. And then we ask ourselves, is there more data that I need that gives me an easier or better understanding of what they're trying to do, what they need? Can I better anticipate something to make their next experience better? So that's it. Data is the everything. It's a lot of math, a lot more data. It's a lot of taking things that we know in the past and then re-asking ourselves the question, is it still valid? So in COVID, paradigms changed in moments. Behavior changed in moments. Concerns changed in moments. And we had to be able to ride those shifts and forget what we knew and learn a lot of new things. And we did all that with data and a whole lot of math.
Now, to bringing that up, retailers like Kroger, as well as Walmart, Target, Canadian Tire, the quarterly results have been very positive, and mostly it's come from this massive influx of the digital channel. With such a change in a short amount of time, and in those learnings you just mentioned from that data, my guess is there was a lot of bumps in the road. So the question I'll pose on behalf of your colleagues that are listening to this: how do you respond to those mistakes, those learnings, and then put into a framework to make sure you don't make the same mistake twice?
The response, you respond humbly. It was a lot of mistakes, a lot of trial and error. So you got to first make a decision. Do I go into trial and error mode, or do I try and be very, very cautious? Well, as a company, we had to make that decision. We are cautious as a company. We want to be very respectful of our customer. We want to ensure that we do things in a very conscientious way. But in this case, it was a crisis. We had to respond. We had to anticipate. We had to use all the senses that we had, our knowledge of our industry, our knowledge of our customer, and just iterate, innovate on the fly. So what did we do? We just talked to each other. We got everybody around. We said, here's a lot of corporate policies that we have. We're putting them to the side. We're just meeting with each other, talking with each other, management, line employees, everybody together in a circle saying, what can we do? Anybody have any ideas? Innovation on the fly. It wasn't uncommon to look at the day's experiences, meet that night, figure out how we're going to change things, immediately make not one change, 20, put them in place, put checks and balances in to make for sure if something wasn't quite right, we could immediately go change it, bring it back into center, if you will, and then constantly check, monitor, see when things were going out of kilter, changing them on the fly, have an entire day's worth of experiences, meet back together that night and say, well, how did that go? Make 20 more changes, try and ramp up, do things better, change after change after change after change. Business changes that would normally have taken 5 years, we did overnight. Month after month after month, constantly trying new methods of working, new ways of working, new business models for the customer, getting their feedback along the way, How did that work out? What would you like to see better? Looking at the data, poring over the data, constantly getting more and more information to say, how better can we do? And challenging ourselves. Is there something else that we can do better? Is that the best we can do? It's just always challenging ourselves, getting feedback, asking the customer, what do you need? Observing what they're doing. But sometimes they can't express what they want. You just have got to perceive it, sense it, let the data tell you what's going on, and then react to it.
For a professional in your position of R&D and technical transformation, that seems like a dream to have that type of engagement across the business lines, technology lines, and innovate that quickly. And it was in response to a pandemic, a crisis. And I don't know if that breakneck pace is sustainable over the long term.